1927. Southeast Iraq. During advanced excavations at the ancient Mesopotamian city of Ur, British archaeologist Leonard Woolley discovers the remains of Queen Puabi. According to reports, the queen is found with an unusually large skull, similar to that possessed by some Egyptian pharaohs and mummies in Peru. For many ancient astronaut theorists, the queen's skull provides further evidence of mankind's extraterrestrial origins.
The description of the queen was highly unusual. A head that was huge. She was not a normal human. She may not have been full Anunnaki. She could have been a hybrid.
There is an effort underway to try to get genetic analysis of the bones. There are characteristics that allude to Anunnaki genes.
This is what the Anunnaki supposedly looked like, with these cone head type skulls. So we would naturally think that she is one of the original Anunnaki, or certainly an extraterrestrial human hybrid.
What's of interest of Queen Puabi is that she's a first dynasty queen and/or priestess. So the fact that she's first dynasty means that she's very close to the reign of the Anunnaki. This puts her in a very unique position because she really holds the key. She might be the evidence to suggest whether or not the ancient Anunnaki were physically real, and that specifically the Anunnaki interbred.
But if the unusual skulls found in Mesopotamia and elsewhere are really evidence of the Anunnaki's reign on Earth, might the legends about them descending from the sky also be true? And if so, might the same be said for other legends that describe similar beings found in ancient texts all over the world? Angels. The flying serpents of Central America. The star people of the Anasazi. The notion that otherworldly beings came to Earth from the heavens is one of the most common themes in ancient mythology and religion. Could the stories really have a basis in truth?
If we go back and look into ancient history, we find stories that sound very, very similar. They're sort of all-powerful, magical, superior entities, and they come from above.
When you go into mythology, when you go into the Star People tales, when you go into the Anunnaki, it is the sameness, the similarity around the planet that makes you say something has to be responsible for the same dreams, the same mythology, the same idea that life came from the stars.
All across the world, we find stories of otherworldly or extraterrestrial beings coming to Earth and influencing humanity. This raises a question. Are there different races of beings coming from the stars and influencing all these cultures? Or is it possible that in fact it's one race of beings, the Anunnaki, who influenced all of these cultures and they told the story of the same beings?
Do worldwide legends of so-called gods really help to prove that ancient man was actually in contact with extraterrestrial beings? And if so, is it possible that religious tales of otherworldly beings interbreeding with humans support the notion that the stories of the Anunnaki are based on historical fact? According to some researchers, the answers may lie in the Hebrew Bible story of the Nephilim.
The Nephilim are mentioned in the 6th chapter of Genesis, where we have the sons of the gods mating with the daughters of men and producing therefore superhuman folk.
The Nephilim are described in some translations as being giants. The relationship between the Anunnaki and the Nephilim is really a story of two cultures. but are related. The Anunnaki was the god caste who created primordial man to enslave them, while the Nephilim were the offspring of those who came down and intermingled with humans.
Now, these beings could be giant in stature, but we're also told that the Nephilim possessed extraordinary supernatural knowledge that they shared with certain portions of humanity.
In Greek mythology, Zeus, the ruler of the gods, is said to have fathered two hybrid sons, Hercules and Perseus, both with earthly women. And the apocryphal Book of Enoch describes beings known as the Watchers, angels who fell from heaven and procreated with humans. Could these tales actually have their origins in the ancient stories of the Anunnaki?
The story of the Anunnaki might seem like something right out of sci-fi, but when we compare the fact that every culture around the world, from the Hindus to the Greeks, the Romans, Egyptians, Mayas, all around the world, we have a similar description of these beings coming to Earth from the heavens, having offspring that were then one half divine, one half human.
British geneticist Francis Crick is best known for his collaboration with James Watson. Together, they unraveled the structure of human DNA in 1953. Less than 10 years later, they were awarded the Nobel Prize for their groundbreaking work in genetics. In the 1960s, Crick became a proponent of panspermia theory and took it to a whole new level with an idea he called directed panspermia.
Francis Crick hypothesized that somewhere perhaps on the other side of the galaxy there had been a civilization of advanced intelligent beings. And they had found that their planet was going to be destroyed. Perhaps a supernova was going to go off in their vicinity, and their planet would be sterilized of life. And he asked himself, what would an intelligent civilization do in that situation? Well, first of all, they'd try to figure out if they could get out of there, if they could actually preserve their lives and the lives of their descendants, perhaps crowd into spaceships and fly across interstellar space until they found a suitable planet to colonize.
But could it actually be true? Could we really be the descendants of an alien race that traveled here from another world?
The ultimate implication of some exobiological theories is actually that we ourselves are extraterrestrials, that life on Earth arose because organic material was brought here from elsewhere.
What if we're the ones, the descendants of those who came from another planet? We weren't created. We were brought here, seeded planet Earth as a colony from some other planet. So we're colonists of another race, and that's why the aliens look like us.
In my opinion, it's not unscientific to consider the possibility of ancient astronauts' alien intervention. We live in a huge universe. Now, bacteria versus humanoids, one may say that's a big difference, but in some ways it's not a big difference. Where you have life, you have the ability for that life to develop into what we consider civilization or intelligent beings.
On March 18, 1965, Russian cosmonaut Alexei Leonov stepped outside the Voshko 2 and became the first human to walk in space. He spent 12 minutes and 8 seconds outside his ship before returning. Leonov's survival depended upon a protective suit that could keep him alive where there was neither atmospheric pressure nor oxygen. If we need spacesuits, would aliens traveling to Earth require the same protection? Is that what we're looking at in these ancient carvings and drawings?
When critics ask, well, why would ancient astronauts have to wear astronaut suits that we're familiar with today? The answer is very simple. Can we go through space without wearing a type of suit? Of course not. We would die. Because who says that whoever visited us in the remote past, that they could breathe in the atmosphere of planet Earth? So it's not far-fetched to suggest that they did in fact wear some type of suit.
Why might these images resemble modern astronauts? If they are aliens, is it possible they are similar to humans? And could they have come from a planet just like Earth? At the turn of the 20th century, a group of British and German scientists considered this possibility. They embraced a theory put forth by early Greek philosophers that all life in the universe began in one specific place. This theory is called panspermia.
Panspermia is the theory that life formed in one place and then got spread around to other places. In outer space, in the medium between stars, we see molecules that are the building blocks of life. So it's easy to get the building blocks of life to another planet. For example, if life formed on Mars, it could have come here to Earth, contaminated Earth, and then started life here.
Roughly 3.6 billion years ago, Mars was warm and wet, much like the conditions on Earth today. Biologists believe that because Mars cooled more quickly than other planets, life may have developed there first.
Mars is a better candidate for life during the early part of the solar system. Mars rocks are coming here all the time, and these have been knocked off Mars by asteroid and comet impacts. And we know that they could convey any Martian microorganisms to Earth.
In August 1996, a team of scientists made a stunning announcement. A Martian meteorite found in Antarctica contained evidence of fossilized life. The 4-pound rock, designated ALH 84001, showed the presence of carbonate globules excreted by microbes when they were alive on Mars 3.6 billion years ago. Earth was no longer alone. Life had existed elsewhere in the universe.
So this cross-contamination between Mars and Earth, which 20 years ago was regarded as a rather wild conjecture, is now pretty much accepted by the astrobiology community.
Northern Iraq. 20 miles south of Mosul lies the ancient Assyrian capital city of Nimrud. Built over 3,000 years ago, in the 13th century BC, the site is an archaeological treasure trove. Among the antiquities found here are monumental statues of winged lions with human heads and massive relief carvings depicting the ancient gods of Mesopotamia. But on March 6, 2015, militants from the Islamic State stormed the ancient site, violently destroying everything in their path. After obliterating irreplaceable relics, they wired the entire site with explosives and leveled it completely, forever wiping it from the face of the earth.
This group seems to be more destructive than just about anything people can recall in history. It's almost as if we're being orphaned from our past. We are having our parentage, our ancestors cut off from us, the record of them.
It is absolutely barbaric what is going on currently in the Middle East, with some factions going deliberately to ancient sites and just eradicating our cultural heritage.
This volatile region is widely considered to have been the cradle of civilization, and its archaeological destruction could mean the loss of information about mankind's historical past.
Iraq, Syria, what we call the Middle East or the Near East, is called the cradle of civilization for a reason. Anthropologically, this appears to be the place where the first humans arose. This is where people came from. And all of the earliest civilizations, cities, governments come from this region.
In the 21st century, the violence and destruction have reached an unprecedented level, but the Middle East has been embroiled in conflict for thousands of years.
The Islamic State today is doing what the Taliban did before, which is doing what Byzantine Christians and Jews before them have all done. They don't want any graven images. So because of their religious beliefs, they are basically destroying our own cultural heritage for religious purposes. And like human lives, many of these you can't get back.
Since 1990, the Middle East has seen the destruction of cultural heritage on an unprecedented scale. A scale not seen since the Christian vandalism that began during the Roman Empire. Over 700,000 archaeological, cultural, and religious artifacts have been stolen or destroyed, and over 200 significant historical sites have been completely left in ruins.
The Middle East seems to be in an almost permanent state of instability. Is this deliberate? Is someone keeping it that way, maybe to prevent us from discovering something? Is there something that would fundamentally change our understanding of who we are and where we come from?
It is absolutely horrifying to see the erasing of our history. And what's worse, all of these ancient sites are one giant piece of the puzzle. That we might have been visited in the past by extraterrestrials,